Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome everybody. I think people are joining, but still we will start as it is now 7 p.m. So good afternoon, good evening. I think sir, people are joined from overseas. So good afternoon also. So today we have today we have very special guest with us, all the way from Greece, Stefanos. He's so I will introduce him. So Stefanos basically almost now more than 10 years he's in a creative field. He's very uh, he's doing a lot of as a creative director. He work as a copywriter, so he has very strong uh, knowledge about words and language. And now I think last more than 4 years he is now actually in UX writing. So we'll definitely explore his journey today and where his UX writing is all about and how these new career opportunities we have, so that the upcoming talent will take up as a this is a great career. Uh, so before we start actual topic, just give me 2 minutes to as as usual to explain about what is UX talk. I have seen a lot of followers. They are already know what is UX talk. So today we have today's UX talk is almost now I think it is 22nd number of UX talk we are doing since from March. Uh, so after lockdown, everybody was a little bit uh, in different different zone basically. So I started this as a, to spread awareness, and I'm very thankful for all speakers. To give their valuable time, and we managed to conduct a lot of different topics, starting from user psychology to behavioral psychology to, and since we have like AR, VR, UX, lot of different subjects we try to explore. So basically, I'm Tushar Deshmukh. I'm founder and CEO of a UX expert. UX expert is my company, and almost we are in design development and uh, very much in creative stuff. Almost now my company is now 8 years. We enter in 8 year. Uh, I have another company which is called Purpose is Training and Mentoring. So that is UXY Training Lab. So now recently we started this new platform as a UX talk. Uh, so it was started as a during COVID time, but now as we getting good response and people are following our speakers and everything. So definitely we are going to expand UX talk as a big platform somehow. We are waiting to just some conditions are normalized. Then maybe we can do some physical workshops or maybe online workshops, uh, maybe some conferences. We already done one conference dedicated to women in design, which is online. We done on 2nd October. So similarly, we are a lot of different plans. Intention is simple, that we want to spread UX as a correct meaning to everybody. So yes, now coming back to our topic and our guest. Okay, so Stefanos, welcome you again, and so we can start with it is I always believe everyone's journey is very inspiration for everyone. So you can start with your journey as a professional journey, or plus as as a career, why you take decisions and how and what are the triggers basically you move, and what today you are doing. So you can start. You can.
Yeah, hi from me too. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm really excited to be here. Um, my professional journey, I would say, began with my studies because I've studied ancient Greek, Greek literature and philosophy. Since the beginning of my studies, I taught ancient Greek and composition to students, something I really enjoy even now. I really love being a teacher, and I suppose that's why I love seminars and webinars as well. In 2007, I began my copywriting journey through advertising. It was really thrilling to come up with ideas, concepts that you could later see on television or write the most intelligent copy you could come up with and see people react to it and see customers engage to it. It is a very creative job that won me over completely. That's why my resume went from trainee to senior copywriter. You know,
Right.
it was, I think in 2014, when everything was turning digital, I also took a more digital path, becoming, with research and experience, a more digital writer. Facebook campaigns, website copy, banner ads, anything digital. So I could not only keep up with the flow, but lead the flow as much as I could, you know. 2 years later, in 2016, I entered a new world for me then called UX. Because since the beginning of my journey, I always loved technology, and I always tried to find a way to combine my studies and my love for the languages with technology. UX did that for me. I found about it by researching, of course, and later started studying it. Books, mostly digital books, of course, about design, design thinking, product design, user experience in websites, user experience strategy. And in 2017, I entered Agile Actors, which is a software as a service company based in Greece, as a UX writer, becoming a part of their user experience team called Experience Actors. That's when all my research, my studying met with actual experience in this field and molded me into a UX writing professional. Now I'm still the UX writer for Agile Actors. I'm also an associate of the UXProdigy, a UX research company also based in Greece.
Great.
I think that's about it.
Great. I think this
Up
is
to
very
now.
fascinating. You know, when I see people are, from different backgrounds, and I think this is a why basically I also like UX. That is the reason where we can do a lot of things. Uh, that like my myself background is totally a life science, then a research, then a PhD, so totally different, and then I now end up with for forming IT company. So it's very exciting, and I think that was actually help us to understand our customers also, because our thought process is like that. So now begin to your as our today's core topic as a UX writing. So there are a lot of confusion, a lot of curiosity, I will say, rather instead of confusion, there is always a curiosity about what is UX writing, because many people think, okay, UX is only about designing or creating prototypes. Then why this need something? And many times I do get questions from from young people, or they know they ask me, what exactly UX writer does. So why we need because they think only that it is okay. It is we need a text or we need a label, but what do we need a specialized skill? So I think we can start with explaining now what is basically the UX writing is all about.
All right. Well, UX writing is the practice of designing the words people see when they interact with software. It's about designing a conversation between a product and its user. That's why many times you're going to hear a writer referring to conversational writing, because what we write is a conversation. Even simpler to put it, it's the language that bridges the gap between the human eye and the machine, or an actual product, okay. Words that can guide the user while serving the product and the business needs. A big part of UX writing is microcopy. Microcopy are the words or phrases in the user interface that are directly related to the action a user takes. It's the motivation before the action, the call to action. It's the instructions that accompany the action. It's the feedback after the user has taken an action. You know, UX writing is many, many things. It's content, it's guidance, it's experience, as its main job is to create a pleasant experience for the user while guiding them to a successful journey. It's engagement, it's the voice of the brand, it's the tone of the product. It's a million things, all leading, of course, to user engagement.
Okay. So basically, then my next question will be this: so, because many people get confused with the content writing, and because see, normally every IT companies they do have a content writers basically,
Yeah.
and then what is the differentiation between it? Well, so how you define or what is a content writer and what is the UX writers or UX writing?
Right. That's a really good question because, as ever, with new roles that have not been here for very long, there are certain things that are misunderstood. Misconception is really what this is about because we always hear terms like content design, content strategy, content writing, UX writing. Let's begin with content design. It's obviously about design. What is not obvious to everybody is that it's not about writing per se. Websites are full of text, but they're also full of videos, images, sounds, animations, and the list goes on. A content designer designs and creates all of this content. It's not about exactly writing. With content strategy, we talk about the strategic side of content, the managing, the planning of any kind of digital content. Again, we're not talking about writing actually. UX writing and content writing, but specifically UX writing can be a part, actually in many occasions must be a part of content strategy and design. But these two roles include tasks and responsibilities that are not for a UX writer to have. Now, for content writing, it's actually just a different term to a UX writer. For some companies, it's different because they perceive content more of as a blog or something like that.
Right.
But your question gives me an excellent opportunity to talk about another misconception, which is UX writing and copywriting.
Right.
Copywriters need to sell. They use words only to attract attention and customers.
Right.
UX writers guide. They use simple words to explain and to help the user. Copywriters work with marketeers, with client service, with account people. UX writers work with designers, developers, and mostly users. Biggest and most essential difference is that copywriters can work alone. UX writers cannot. They need a team, they need researchers, designers, and most of all, they need users.
Right. I think you are saying correctly that so it is not always UX is a teamwork. So when you say about so now as you correctly said what exactly the UX writing and what so now connected question will be what are actual responsibilities or what are the day-to-day tasks or maybe what kind of activities a UX writer or I will say in the other way what companies are expecting to do from a UX writer. So
Yeah. What's our day-to-day life, you mean, while working? Yeah. Well, that depends really. It really depends if you're working on an agile environment or not. Supposedly, UX writers can only work in an agile environment with UX designers and the list and the whole team, yeah? UX writers are actually messengers. They deliver the messages a product has for its users. In order to deliver the message properly, they must first understand what the message is, but more importantly, they must know to who they deliver it. They must know the user. Otherwise, they will not be able to guide them correctly in order to onboard them, to engage them, and hopefully, of course, to drive them to the end of their journey. So the first step in this whole list is research. From competitive analysis, where we meet with our fellow UX researchers, of course, to conversational mining, which is we actually meet the user and how they talk, what messages they exchange between them. We need to research them so we can help them. So first is research. The second step, essential of course, if the UX writer is lucky enough, and I'll explain what I mean later, we may be given the task to create the voice and tone for a product or a brand. I say if we're lucky because sometimes UX writers are not involved from the beginning of a brand or a product. So later we must adapt to a given voice or a given tone or anything. But even if we've created the tone or not, we are responsible for adapting it throughout the user's journey. Even if we've created the voice or not, we must adapt to it so the users can have a consistent message taken from the brand. That's why we create content style guide, the writing guidelines of any product or any brand. So first was research, then was the voice and the tone and the content style guide. Then, and that is the largest part of what we do, we write microcopy, the words or phrases in the user interface directly related to the action the users take. We write the onboarding flows, the login, the registration, the how to get started, the help, everything. The checkout flows, instructions, tooltips, or hover text, error and confirmation messages, buttons, notifications, empty states, any form of messaging in actual interactions with the user is our responsibility.
Okay, great. So then the immediate something comes in mind. Okay, then who can follow this, or how basically we can become a UX writer, and who are the correct profiles for, because it is a, when you say design, UX is a design subject, then there should be, many times people will think, okay, so should I have some creativity, design creativity in my mind, then only I can do UX writing, or I can do a UX, because still we are stuck in a, when you call UX, we are still today we are stuck in a tools basically. Many
Yeah.
people are, okay, I will learn Figma, I will learn XD, that means I'm a UX designer or that way. But then how about then UX writing? So who can do this basically, and how they can start, or which is the mind, this is like all about the mindset, or it is they need to learn language. So you
Yeah.
can, what is your takeaways on that?
You know, I think I'll begin my answer with something you said. Does it take creativity? Well, in the job description per se, someone may not have so much creativity. They may not rely on it. But the best error pages or 404 pages we've ever seen were the creative ones. That's the ones you're going to remember. So it's good to have creativity as well. Yeah. As we talked about before, this is a relatively new role. That means by this time, there are people with very different backgrounds that have actually gotten into UX writing. from journalists to designers, from teachers to developers. Anyone can be a UX writer, but for me, they must have some key aspects in their personality. They must have a really, really good use of the language. Anything can be researched or anything can be Googled. We know that, but a good use of a language is a great starting point for someone to be any kind of writer, UX writer included, of course. That said, after mastering, in a way, their own language, they must grab the essentials for writing on the web, because the web has its own languages, has its own perks. Someone must really get by it. Secondly, they must have a mindset, I would say that there is always room for improvement. That's a mentality, because UX writing is about problem solving. So looking for ways to always improve an experience, so it won't become a problem. It's essential for someone to have. It's a design thinking as well, I think. Whenever there's a problem, there's a probability and there's an opportunity that we're going to solve it. Which of that is the best way? Third, and most important, is for them to be a team player. A team must consist of people willing to be on the team, because only through a team you can achieve great results in digital or product design. UX writers, as we said before, must be a part of the team. They cannot work on their own. So having a team player attitude may be the most important thing a UX writer must have. Because sometimes, for us who have a background on copywriting, we used to work alone, we used to brainstorm with our own selves. It's a bit difficult to overcome this obstacle of being alone and working alone, and then becoming a member of a team essential to your writing. So it must be a personal trait in order to do it correctly.
Okay.
Lastly, someone must always be willing to learn something new. Technology always takes huge steps, even bigger steps that our mind can get from a day to the other. So we must always be ready to learn new ways to learn. We must follow the rules, of course, but we can lead a change through constant reading, researching, and learning. All that I said now has to do with the mentality and the personality someone must have to start thinking about becoming a UX writer. To actually become one, let alone a good one, the list is much bigger, of course. You must understand the UX design process and common patterns, understand what user-centered design is, understanding the importance of usability, of accessibility, knowing the Agile framework and methodologies, familiarize oneself with information architecture, information hierarchy, and the list goes on.
Right.
But as mentality has it, creative, master a language, improve, always evolve, team playing attitude, and adventurous when it comes to learning mind.
Okay, great. I think correctly, sir. So it is like always research is the first thing that uh, everybody in UX, and I always say without user research you cannot do UX. So that was actually many times I use as a tagline. But when you are saying it is a team player, so I think UX, when somebody wants to be a UX writer, so how much
Mhm.
technicality or technical knowledge will help him is the first part, and second thing, how much business knowledge will help him. because I have seen people from even the sales and marketing background, they are also coming into this field. So
Right. Well, the technical knowledge is always useful to have because in our day-to-day work, we must know how to handle any tools a UX designer knows how to handle, of course, not on the same level. We must use Sketch, Figma, or anything. It's in our job description, you know. When it comes to business knowledge, I think the most important thing to have is active listening, because not everyone can have business knowledge, or they're not required to have it as a UX writer. Since we must cooperate with business analysts, though, even if we don't have business knowledge, we must be able to listen and receive the guidelines, the tasks, the feedback, everything. That is a trait that can be gained. You don't need to begin with even basic business rules on your mind.
So basically, what you are saying is they have to be open up. Alertness is very important when you are working on any project,
Exactly,
right?
exactly, yeah.
So now I think audience also, I think there are some misconceptions. We try to hopefully they are now they are understood what is UX. But now my next question will be what where you see now in the future about this UX writing, because and why I'm asking this question, because there is a lot of now people are uh, talking about machine learning, artificial intelligence, right? So if the content is creating by a human being or by algorithm, so that was something uh, so in future, or maybe even what today we are seeing, how the now last 8 months globally what we are everybody is now going through is in a COVID situation, and then how the future is basically you see where the content UX writing, content writing, and where we have to do a competitions with these like these are algorithms which is coming from machine learning, or actually the UX writing will help in this futuristic some technologies.
Um, you know, as happened with Alexa, or at first the chatbots or anything, actually UX writing helped with that. The chatbots or the AI as it is now have not and cannot replace a UX writer. And that's because of the mindset one must have. And an AI doesn't have a mindset yet. Uh, we need to be creative along with being useful. We need to be um, listeners along with being writers, helpers, guides. So, as it is now, in the future of UX writing, I can still see growth. I can see evolvement along with product design, of course. So I don't know if the terms will change or they will not. But as product design and UX design evolves, I can see evolvement in our field as well. I can see even more personalized messages throughout applications. Who knows, even better chatbots that can personalize your message according to who you are. Vocal writing, of course, as Alexa is, can always has always room for improvement. But for me, the future of UX writing will be the ultimate personal voice for different users in the same application. We too could use an application and receive the same messages. We could evolve into bringing a different voice and a different tone to each user using the same application. I think that would be very interesting as the future of UX writing and design.
I think it will be more challenging also because
Of
the
course.
expectations, because our users are also getting smarter and smart. Because a few years back the users are not the technical savvy, but now even 2 years kid is also using smartphones. So I think our users are more we put challenge to us, as a UX professionals. So
Yeah.
great, but
Sorry,
that
we
is, I
have
think,
I think we have a question from
yeah, we'll take
someone.
question at the end of the, right. So I will just
Ah, sorry,
request,
sorry. Okay, okay.
yeah. So we'll just, if anyone question, just put question in chat. So once my question will finish, we will take we'll take audience questions. Okay, okay. Coming back to our conversation, see. Yes, so definitely there is a future and there is a challenge about UX writing. So the people now, the young talent which is now thinking about, maybe they are learning UX and they are good at language, or maybe they're good at thinking. What is your advice basically? How they can start, or where, or any tools they require? I don't think tools are there, but how they plan this thing to become a good UX writer.
Yeah. Um, you know, the greatest tool for a writer is just a pen and paper.
Oh,
It was back then, it is still now. But what changes now for the UX part is that it should be done along with the team. The protocopy can be done in the prototype. The UI copy will be done in the UI. It doesn't matter. Um, what I can say though, through experience, is that it's a path that it's worth it. You know, it's a path that can lead to great personal growth and achievement. First of all, um, it's a path that I sincerely have enjoyed every minute of it, because through research, of course, and the always learning mindset, it makes me want to become better every day at what I do and at what I think of myself for the next 5 years, let's say. Um, as advice, I'm actually going to borrow some of the Agile Actors values that inspired me at my beginning. Um, I think they can cover my advice to anyone interested in following the path of the UX writer. It's be adventurous, which means do not fear change and experimentation with the new. And it's be agile, inspect and adapt. Don't wait, act. Finally, of course, be open-minded, because as one of my favorites, Frank Zappa, once said, a mind is like a parachute. It doesn't work unless it's open.
great, great, great. Yeah, great. So we have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So we'll take those questions. So first question is, what are the main obstacles and difficulties for a UX writer, in your opinion?
Right. Thank you for your question. The main obstacles for a UX writer right now are what was for a UX designer 8 years ago. People cannot understand what we're doing still, and they cannot grasp the importance of what we can bring to a UX design team. Um, Main obstacles and difficulties. Yeah, I think general perception of what we do and the value of what we can bring to a team is the biggest obstacle we are facing right now. And it's global. You know, sometimes when you are from a small country like Greece, you always like to say, you know, no, in Greece, they don't know what UX writing is, blah, 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 blah. My colleague, Panagiotis Zacharias, did a research for this year's World Usability Congress, and actually did some interviews with UX writers all over the world. When we did our interview, he told me exactly that thing. You know, you're not the only one that says that people don't know what you're doing. It's all over the world the same thing for UX writers. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. I hope you you got the answer here. So another question that what are the things that you have to consider or that limit you? So when you design the voice and tone of the product, so basically it's asking how you plan this and what are the limitations.
Right. The first thing a writer needs to consider is what the actual product is, because someone might create a product or a web page and wants to turn it into a love brand like Apple or Coca-Cola, and they just sell matches. You know, that can't happen. The first thing you must consider is the product. The second thing, and the one extremely important as well, is the user. Who is going to use that product? If the users are lawyers from 40 to 65, your voice must be formal. If the teenagers, 16 to 18, it must adapt accordingly. I'm saying it really simple, but the most important thing is to whom the product refers to.
Right.
Now, you have to consider the things that limit you, of course, are again the users and the product itself, because if it's a local product, let's say, you cannot write in a global language, and many other things. I'm trying to put it as simple as I can, but usually the same things can inspire, can limit, and can push you to a way when writing a voice or a tone for a product.
Great. I think that was correct. Okay, now we have
Hi.
hello. Okay, I think someone microphone was okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we have one more question. It is like, how do we learn UX writing? Any resources?
There are many webinars online and seminars, used to be before the virus, but there are many webinars online. Some of them are for free, some are not. Usually the first steps can be found in a free webinar when you can learn the basics of UX writing, an introduction to that. There are many resources on the net. Yeah. I actually did a webinar in November. It was, I think it was 5 and 11th of November. We did a webinar with the UXProdigy on the introduction to UX writing. It was a really good experience because there were, I think, 17 participants from all over the world, as well as here, of course. And it was really interesting to see everyone's participation in the same basic knowledge and fundamentals of UX writing. Yeah.
I think yes, there are a lot of resources are available, and I think as we are also discussing with so we are also Stefanos is we are planning together workshop for UX writing very soon, and maybe in next couple of months we will, or maybe soon as per the availability of Stefano himself. So we will plan definitely a one activity based workshop where you can learn the UX writing. Uh, okay, great. So we have one more question. So how and when would you suggest that UX writers work together with UX designers? I think basically question is about, I think, the where exactly you fit in the UX
Yeah.
process, basically.
Process. Yeah. That can be dependent on how an actual company works. But in the agile process, um, the UX designers with UX writers begin together. They're together at the interviews, they're together at the first briefing, they're together at the first workshops or anything, because by familiarizing ourselves with the users as a UX designer does, we get a much better perspective and much better opportunities to write the right copy. As it goes to UI designers, our collaboration with them comes next, of course, because with UX, we do the protocopy together with a prototype. With UI, we're going to do the user interface copy, which is one of the final steps before the testing, if we're lucky enough to test.
So yes, that was actually the question also comes in my mind that when when we do a user testing or usability testing basically, because many product we go through usability testing and user testing depending on structure and nature of a product. So I think there also UX writer will definitely plays an important role, right? That
Of course, in the user testing as well as from the user interview to the design to the user testing, it's really essential for the UX writer to be there because the every concern a user might have is not only about the design. Because as I've said before, good UX writing is the writing you won't notice. It's the one you won't say that, oh, look how it is and it didn't help much. It must go unnoticed, but it must help. Some of the concerns of the user could be about the copy, that it's not helpful or anything. So it's essential for us to be there as well, from the beginning to the end.
right. I think hope you answer that thing. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any more question? Please, we can we can take flash some of questions. Okay. Thanks. I think that was really insightful, and I hope this will help a lot of many people to take this as a UX writing as a career path. And once again, I will thank Stefanos for your time and taking out.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and it
It
was
is
great.
our, it
Yeah.
is my pleasure. It's, and yes, very soon we will discuss how to come up with a workshop, and soon we definitely will we launch in the Indian audience, basically global audience because. And again, thanks every participant that they also given us a time and they attend the live session. Soon I will post this recording also on our web page and LinkedIn page. So do follow us on LinkedIn. So I will tell about the next UX talk is on 6th of December, and the subject is on UX for in artificial intelligence and virtual reality. So UX in AR and VR. So and the speaker is Rahul Deshmukh. Is one of leading AR VR company based in India. The ethos is they are doing wonderful almost now 8 or 10 years they are doing. Now they shifted to AR and VR. So that will be also one of our interesting topic for UX professionals to learn.
Yeah, it will. It will
Yeah,
be.
great. Thanks everybody once again for this wonderful time, and good night and good evening for everything. Soon we will come up and we will post things on the LinkedIn. So please do follow Stefanos, UX Talk, and me on for latest update.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, every one of you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks.
you
Bye.
very much. Very nice and interesting talk.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.